There's a moment most people have experienced at least once. You're outside, maybe sitting on a bench, walking through a park, or just standing in your own backyard. And a bird lands nearby, not far away, near you. And then it does something that feels almost unsettling. It stares at you. Not a quick glance, not the nervous, darting look birds usually give, a long, deliberate, focused stare. You move slightly. It adjusts. Still watching. You look away and look back. It's still there, still watching. Most people laugh it off. It's just a bird. But here's what almost nobody knows. That bird was doing something in that moment that researchers spent decades trying to understand. And what they eventually discovered completely changed how scientists think about the relationship between birds and human beings. Let's start with something you probably never thought about. When you look at a bird, your eyes are at the front of your face, both eyes pointing forward, working together. That's how predators see the world, focused, locked on, tracking. Now think about a small bird. Its eyes are on the sides of its head, which means to look directly at you with focus, it has to turn its head. It has to make a deliberate choice to orient its body toward you. That's not accidental. That's not reflexive. That is a decision. And the question that researchers kept coming back to was this: why would a prey animal, a creature that survives by staying alert to everything around it, choose to focus its entire attention on a single human being? Because in the wild, that's a risk. Every second a bird spends staring at you is a second it's not watching for hawks, not scanning for cats, not monitoring its flock. So something about you in that moment was worth that risk. But what exactly was it looking for? Researchers at Cambridge University began studying this precise question, and what they found in their initial observations genuinely surprised them. Birds weren't just looking at humans. They were reading them specifically. They were watching human eyes, not body language in general, not movement, eyes. In a series of controlled experiments, they placed food near human subjects and instructed some participants to look directly at the food, and others to look away. The birds waited. They watched the humans, and then, consistently, they approached the food when the human's gaze was averted, not when the body moved, not based on sound, based specifically on where the eyes were pointed. Think about what that means for a moment. A bird, a creature with a brain roughly the size of a walnut, had learned to track human gaze direction and use it as a decision-making tool. Now, here's where things get genuinely fascinating. Because the gaze tracking ability was only the beginning of what researchers uncovered. The deeper question was, how sophisticated is this system? Can birds just detect whether eyes are open or closed? Or are they doing something far more complex? A research team at the University of Exeter decided to test this directly. They ran an experiment where a person approached a piece of food using two different methods. In the first approach, the person walked toward the food while looking directly at it. In the second, the person walked the same path but kept their eyes averted. Same body, same movement, same pace. The only variable was eye direction. The birds responded differently to each approach. Consistently, measurably, repeatedly. They were not reacting to movement. They were not reacting to proximity. They were reacting to intentionality. They were reading whether the human meant to come toward them. Let that sit for a second. A bird watching you from across a yard is not just seeing a large object moving in space. It is attempting to determine what you intend to do. And that changes everything about what it means when a bird stares at you. Because if a bird is reading your eyes, reading your intent, then when it holds that long, focused gaze on your face, it isn't being curious in a passive way. It is actively gathering information. It is running a kind of behavioral calculation. Is this human aware of me? What direction is their attention moving? Do they represent a threat or something else? And here's what researchers noticed next, something that almost nobody talks about. The birds that were best at this weren't the ones with the best eyesight. They were the ones with the most experience with humans, which raises a question that nobody expected to be asking. Are birds that stare at you the ones that already know you? Because if experience with humans sharpens this ability, then a bird choosing to stare at you specifically may not be random at all. It may be a bird that has seen you before, one that has been building a file on you, quietly, patiently, every time you've walked past, every time you've been outside, every time you thought no one was paying attention. And the research on bird memory makes this possibility deeply uncomfortable in the most fascinating way. Here's what we know about how birds remember human faces. In 2011, a study at Rockefeller University took what was already known about crow intelligence and pushed it somewhere new. Researchers wore specific masks while behaving threateningly toward crows, capturing them, handling them briefly, releasing them. Then they returned to the same locations weeks later. Some researchers wore the threatening mask. Others wore neutral masks. The crows responded completely differently. To the threatening mask, alarm calls, dive bombing, mobbing behavior, recruiting other crows to respond. To the neutral masks, nothing. And here's what made this extraordinary. The crows that had never personally been captured, crows that had only witnessed the capture of others, also responded to the threatening mask with alarm. They had learned from watching. They had stored a face, and they had shared that information with others in their group. But crows aren't alone in this. Pigeons, birds, most people walk past without a second glance, were shown in controlled studies to be able to distinguish between individual humans, even when those humans change their clothing. Even when the visual cues most people assume birds use were deliberately altered. They weren't using your outfit to identify you. They were using something about you, your posture, your gait, your face, details you don't even think about when you walk outside, details a bird has already cataloged. So when a bird stares at you with that long, focused gaze, there is now genuine scientific reason to consider that it may already know your face, that this isn't the first time it's looked at you. It may simply be the first time you noticed it looking. But there's one more layer to this. And it's the part of the research that researchers themselves find most difficult to explain, because once you understand that birds read eyes and remember faces, the next logical question is almost too strange to ask. What are they trying to communicate back? There's a behavior that field researchers began documenting more consistently in recent years. Birds, particularly species that live in close proximity to humans, will sometimes hold eye contact and then perform a very specific sequence. They look at a human, they look at something nearby, food, a nest, a threat. Then they look back at the human, back to the object, back to the human. It's called referential gazing, and it's the same communicative structure used by human infants before they develop language. It's the gesture of pointing without a hand, the attempt to direct another being's attention. Look at this. I want you to see what I'm seeing. This behavior has been documented in dogs, in primates, in ravens and jays, and each time researchers encounter it, the same question surfaces. What does it mean for a creature to want to share its experience with you? What does it mean for a bird, a wild animal operating entirely on survival instinct, to pause in its day, turn its gaze toward a human, and attempt to show them something? There's no clean scientific answer to that yet. But the behavior is real. The documentation is real. And if you've ever had a bird seem to look between you and something else repeatedly, you may have witnessed it without knowing what you are seeing. Here's what all of this builds toward. When a bird stares at you, it is not spacing out. It is not confused. It is not malfunctioning. It is running one of the most sophisticated behavioral reading systems in the animal kingdom. It is checking your eyes for intent. It is cross-referencing your face against memory. It is calculating threat, familiarity, and possibly attempting to establish a line of communication. The bird looking at you knows more about how you are looking at the world in that moment than most people standing right beside you do. And the unsettling, beautiful truth that science keeps edging toward is that some of these birds aren't just observing humans passively. They are paying attention to specific humans, returning to specific humans, building something that in any other context we would have no hesitation calling a relationship. The next time a bird lands near you and holds that gaze, don't look away immediately. Don't dismiss it, because that bird has already done something remarkable. In a world full of stimuli, threats, sounds, movement, and survival demands, it chose to stop, to orient toward you, to look. And somewhere in that small, ancient, extraordinarily capable mind, it is forming a picture of you, one it may carry for months, one it may recognize again next spring when you walk back outside without even thinking about it. Most people never know they're being remembered. Most people never realize they've already been seen. Birds notice far more than we give them credit for, and some of them have been watching us far longer than we've been watching them. If this changed how you think about the birds around you, the next video goes even deeper into something researchers found about how birds respond to human emotion. You won't look at them the same way again.